Good morning. Happy Monday, Yankee fans. This is the Pitch Strike Chronicles. I am Uncle Tats. I am here with Rob. And the Yankees, after a very blah series with the Cubs, the news came out yesterday that they finally listened to some of the things that the fans have been chirping about, and they have canned their hitting coach, Dylan Lawson. Small move to start. What I thought was really interesting is you don't usually see the Yankees make a move like this in season. So it makes you wonder, are the Yankees is the front office looking at this season with a little more of a panic, is the way I want to take this angle. Because when you do something out of the ordinary, it means that you're seeing something out of the ordinary. And that's been the lackluster offense that the Yankees have had this year. You know, we all know that we're without Judge, and he is a very, very instrumental impact on this lineup and the production as far as runs go and just the flow of the lineup itself. Dylan Lawson has been a target amongst us in the streaming community and Yankee fans overall. Rob, when you look at a move like this where they finally make that decision and they fire a coach, does it give you the sense that they're starting to maybe take this lackluster season seriously, or is this just kind of we're going to throw you to the wolves and everything else is just going to remain the same?
I hope that there's more to come. Not necessarily coaching changes, because we know Boone's not getting fired. So before anyone thinks that might be next, it's not going to happen. They need to let go of this entire hitting staff, and it needs to happen soon, and they need to get rid of this whole analytical staff. Fishman's a joke. And I said yesterday that I really don't care about this move because they're using Lawson as a scapegoat. Now, was he good at his job? No. Let's be honest. He wasn't good at his job. But he also wasn't dealt a very fair hand either. You know, going into the season, Bader's hurt. Then you lose Donaldson, who, for all we know he's bad, but they were hoping he could be better this year. Then you lose Stanton. Then you lose Judge. And then you get Bader back, you get Judge back, and then you lose Judge again. And even at the lineup now without Judge, you have 5, 6, maybe even 7 guys that should be able to have a functioning major league lineup. And I don't think he has this groundbreaking analytical philosophy that he's trying to teach these guys, because when he came in, he literally just said, hit the ball hard. You hit good pitches, swing at good pitches. That's really all he said. So it's not like he came in here with this fresh mind. Everything that growing up as a kid playing Little League, it's like, okay, well, if it's a good pitch, swing at it. If it's not, don't.
Those are Little League instructions.
Yeah, he had simplified instructions to everything. So I don't think that his philosophy was doing too much to the players. And also, you would think that professional guys like Rizzo, Stanton, LeMahieu, Donaldson even, Torres, Bader, these are all-star caliber, MVP caliber players. Stanton's won an MVP. Rizzo's gotten, I think, kind of close, but he's an all-star. DJ was a hitting champion. Donaldson's won an MVP. These guys would see if whatever he's teaching us isn't working, they're going to adjust. Rizzo's done it before. Stanton's been able to do it. So it's the fact that all these guys are struggling at the same time. I don't know if it's fully on him. My blame is placed toward the guy that keeps hiring these people, because this is now the second hitting coach. We've had several assistants since 2018, and it seems to be the same issue, whether it be for a big chunk of the season or for, like last year was basically end of July or post All-Star break into August, into a little bit into September, and then in the postseason. They go through these complete offensive ruts where everybody struggles. That's more of an issue with the way the roster's put together, where you have a lot of all-or-nothing kind of hitters, with the exception of DJ LeMahieu, who this year has been absolutely terrible. He's basically been all or nothing. And when you're missing Aaron Judge, a lot of this is going to happen, but you should have more. You should be able to get more production. So I feel like this is just Cashman trying to use a scapegoat. Plus, it looks terrible on the organization when 2 young players, one's in AA, who should be in AAA, and young 21, 22-year-old Anthony Volpe, are able to figure out what's wrong with Anthony Volpe before any of these coaches did. And we all said that. We all came on the show. We all said that's an issue. John Boy said it yesterday. It looks bad. And then you look at Aaron Hicks. He leaves, goes to your rival. He sucked for so many years for us. Goes to the Orioles. They say, hey, look what you did in 2018, your best year. And he goes back to that. And now he's been a really good player for them. These things look bad. And you're thinking, why can't the organization figure this stuff out? It looks bad. So I think they're just kind of putting the target on his back, using him as the scapegoat. But until we see more changes, I have no confidence that some guy is going to come in here from another organization or from outside the organization, as Cashman said, and immediately fix things. The Yankees need an immediate fix. I don't know if firing Lawson is going to do that. I'm hoping that roster changes follow this. Like, we need to get Donaldson out of here. Franchy's got to go. You need to get Peraza up here. Even if you don't want to give that job to Florial, get some guys that can put the ball in play, not necessarily just singles dribbler hitters like IKF, but like guys that can go gap to gap, line to line, hit one over the wall. We need consistent hitters, and we need to completely change this uppercut swing philosophy, because this is all where it starts at the top. We didn't see this for a long time. 2017 was a really good year for the offense, and we didn't have some of the star power we have right now. So it makes you wonder, was 2018 where the philosophy just completely changed because Aaron Judge was doing it, and they're like, everyone's got to be like him. And you saw the offense, even though we had some good years, they went through those periods where it's like, how is nobody hitting? And it needs to change, and it's a step. It's a small first step, getting rid of Lawson, but until you get rid of the guy that keeps hiring these people, not much else is going to go differently.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to get to the chat because they brought up some interesting comments, and we always love to shout out our friends in the chat. NFE, good morning. How is everything going? Medina, good to see you here this morning. Sunil, where the hell have you been? You haven't been here in a while, and I'm very upset with you about that. So it's, you're seeing some of these comments, right? So NFE, right? Let's go in order. The much needed move, but it's going to make more than firing Dylan Lawson to fix this team. Absolutely. I think it's like Rob said, it's a small step, but a step nonetheless is how I'm looking at it. The way I've analyzed this and I've thought about it, I'm like, this really doesn't move the needle for us. This isn't one of those, now the offense is going to get going because they're going to bring in a new voice. I don't think that's the case. Like Rob pointed out, there's so many fundamental flaws in these players that should be all-star players. They should be all-star caliber players. And I'm using that term specifically because we all know it's all-star week. Tonight's the home run derby. I love the home run derby. But I really want to see more of the roster moves. I think that's really like what you said. I think that's what we're all looking for overall. Yes, it's going to be nice to have a new voice for these guys, but they have to make the adjustments themselves. I'm very much in favor of holding every player accountable. We could say on some of the moves, every time with the bullpen, every time there's 2 outs, there's going to be a pitching change. One of those types of situations, and we can scream at Boone, and it's justified. But when these same players, and we've gone through it over and over again, they need to make the adjustments themselves. Yeah, you may stick to your guns of what got you here, but if everybody else figured you out, be a professional enough to make an adjustment. That's all we're asking for. Just make a simple change. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but at least it'll show us you're trying to. Look at what it did with Volpe, right? He came up, he had his way of hitting, he fell into some bad habits. They're like, look, why don't you try just going back into what got you here? And look what he's done. So it's just a matter of adjustment. So that's really what I think. We got Sunil here. All right, Uncle Taz, did you apply for the hitting coach? But absolutely. All right. I'm putting my name, I'm a nominee. That's it. That's why it says it. Hitting coach nominee. I think that if they really want to go outside the organization, go all the way. because some of these players just need to be told to just knock it the hell off and just go back to their fundamentals. I think sometimes the little league mentality might be something that really helps. See the ball, hit the ball. Don't just swing it thinking that every time you swing you're going to hit a home run. I think that's been the problem, and that comes down to Fishman and the analytical division. Stop trying so hard. I think that's the other part of it. I think they're trying so hard to get out of their own rut that they're just digging themselves deeper in.
I mean, you just look at the stats that our former hitting coach famously didn't care about. Look at our on-base percentage, one of the worst in the league. Look at our batting average, one of the worst in the league. That's never been the case. Even when the Yankees have had rough years, we've been top 10 in batting average, or not batting average, but on base. We're always a good on-base team. We're always a good run-scoring team. We're always a good home run hitting team. RBIs, all that stuff. We're never the bottom of the barrel. Even batting average, even the Yankees, who don't, they prefer on base and slugging and all that stuff, their batting average as a team is never where the Oakland Athletics are or where the Kansas City Royals and Detroit Tigers are. We're in the bottom three in those categories, on base and batting average. I don't know the exact number. It's embarrassing, exactly. So it's obvious that they're trying too much. They're swinging at bad pitches, and it's everybody. It's not just one person that's doing it. Bader's doing it. Rizzo's doing it. Stanton, LeMahieu especially. Volpe's doing it. The catchers are doing it. Everybody in this lineup is swinging at bad pitches, and what used to be the Yankees' bread and butter, which they're just going to wait you out.
Yep.
They're going to take what you give them, and if you walk them, you walk them, and that's how they would scrape some runs across. Even when they were struggling, they'd find a way to get those guys across. Now it just seems like they're just trying to swing the bats like crazy and go and swing at everything. Even Stanton, who's notorious for swinging at bad pitches, he's looking even more lost than before. So it's just the entire lineup at the exact same time is just taking terrible at-bats, swinging the bat at pretty much everything. They're not taking walks the way they used to, and that's a huge part of it. Batting average, if they're middle of the pack in batting average, but top 5, top 10 and on base, this offense would be just fine without Aaron Judge. They'd obviously be a lot better with him, but they'd be able to put up 4 or 5 runs a game without Aaron Judge. But you're seeing a guy like Rizzo who's always taking his walks and taking his pitches and having these long at-bats. They're not happening. Even Stanton, when he strikes out, he'll get the count to 2-2, 3-2, make you work, and then he might draw the walk. Torres, LeMahieu especially, his strikeout rate's way up. You're not seeing that right now. And you wonder if that's only Lawson's philosophy, because he was here last year and they were taking their walks. So I don't know is it just one player that's making everybody just fall out of rhythm? Because if that's the case, that goes to the way this team was constructed. If you lose one player in a 9-man lineup, all goes to hell.
Listen, it all circles back to Cashman, right? That's really what it comes down to, because he's the one. Like you've said, I've said, everybody has said, Cashman's the one that put all of this together. Why is he not at fault? The biggest mistake that the ownership made was that extension for Cashman. And it's not that we think that Cashman is the worst GM that ever walked the face of the earth. It was just time for a new voice, a new name to the team. That's what we were asking for. That's why when they got rid of Girardi, it didn't make sense, but at the same time, it's like, all right, they want to bring in a new voice as these young kids are coming up. We just, and we were okay with that. Some thought he should have gotten one more year. Some, but that comes down to fan preference. Some people were very comfortable with Girardi being the manager for so long. Some wanted to change. They made the change. Sometimes it's healthy to make that change for change's sake. All right. John Doe, all right, let's get his comment up here. I know this name has been brought up a lot, but John, welcome to our stream. Hope you're enjoying the show. Paul O'Neill would be a dream hitting coach. He wouldn't tolerate the nonsense. My counter to that would be that's why he won't get the job. they're going to want a yes man. They're going to want somebody that's going to accept their philosophy and run with it. They're not going to want somebody that's going to go against the trend of what the Yankees want to do. It's just going to be rinse and repeat. They're just going to put a new name to the bullshit.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I know a lot of people want Jeter to be in the front office. They want Cone to be the pitching coach. They want Paul O'Neill to be the hitting coach, and they want to bring back everybody from the dynasty to be part of this coaching staff. But it wouldn't be a good idea because if the offense struggles, you're going to have to look at the hitting coach, and you want to really start saying fire Paul O'Neill. That's why I didn't want Derek Jeter in this front office because God forbid he had a rough year as GM or something like that. People would be like, "Oh, the GM sucks," and you don't want to look at these guys. It's same thing with Girardi. He was a huge part of that dynasty, and I wanted him gone. But even I was like, give him another year. I couldn't stand Joe Girardi. I think he's so overrated by this fan base as a manager. He's incredibly overrated. He was not that good, and people will try to tell you he was because of how much they hate Aaron Boone. But even I was saying he deserves another year. I didn't necessarily agree, and especially when they replaced him with Boone, I thought that was a terrible decision because it felt like a lateral move to me. And it was because Boone and Girardi are very similar. They are. They both can't handle a bullpen to save their life, and it's just that Boone's a little bit more friendly. But Girardi had a much better staff around him. So that's what helped Girardi out. He had Pena, he had Thompson, he had who's the guy that we had in 2017, the hitting coach. I forgot his name. But he had a good staff around him. Really good staff. Boone doesn't. Boone doesn't. That's what helped Girardi. But even I was saying Girardi deserves another shot. But I wouldn't give the job to Paul O'Neill either because, like you said, is he going to be the Paul O'Neill that we all love that's going to point things out like, hey, you're doing this wrong, hey, you're doing this wrong? Or is he going to become Brian Cashman's watered down? They're going to put the strings on him too. And you're just going to want to throw the guy in the garbage. Like everyone wants to take the Aaron Boone puppet and toss him. Are we going to want to do the same thing to Paul O'Neill if he becomes a puppet to Brian Cashman? I don't think he wants to be. I think Paul O'Neill himself doesn't want to be part of this organization because everyone that seems to be, even if they're calling the games, but if they're on the outside looking in, they can tell that Cashman runs the show, and a lot of these guys are just doing what he says anyway. Yeah. And if you bring in Paul O'Neill and you bring in David Cone, they're not going to be able to coach they want to coach. Now, if Cashman all of a sudden just had a change of heart over the last 24 hours and said, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem, like the Taylor Swift song. So maybe now he's changing things up. I don't know. I really don't know. But we'll have to just a wait and see process. Hopefully during the next few days of this break, we start to see more changes. We see who our new hitting coach is, and we make some roster changes. That's the most important thing to me. But there's so many flaws with this front office that if you brought in Paul O'Neill, he'd be a watered down version of himself. And I don't want to see that. I love the Warrior, and he brought us so much joy during the 90s. I'd hate to see him become a shell or a speaking puppet to do Brian Cashman's bidding.
Yeah, and what's going on, Jonathan? I see you in the chat. Jigga Man, welcome to the show. He says we cannot cast doubt on everyone. Paul O'Neill would be a great addition to the biggest story. But he might not want the role anyway. I think he likes his role in the booth. He doesn't have to treat it. He doesn't have to take it like a full-time job. He gets the time with his family. I think some of the times when you look at guys with that stature of Paul O'Neill or Derek Jeter, they gave their time to the game, right? They don't want to, they might like the role that they're in now, but they don't want to do all the traveling like they did when their playing career. I think, look at the years that gone by between when, Mattingly stopped playing and then got into coaching. There was a gap there where they were able to kind of, stay home. And while players do that, I think it's also one of those, they like being the quote unquote behind the scenes guy in the booth where they can chirp their opinions. They can get, they can analyze everything that they're seeing and leave it at that. They don't have to go through all the rigorous routines of the on-field play. So I I actually enjoy listening to Paul O'Neill in the booth. I wouldn't want him to leave, although I think he would be I think he'd make a great hitting coach. But I just don't think that that's a role that I haven't seen anything from his body language, the way he's talking, that he would be interested in it. And LI, I almost missed this comment. LI, how's everything going? Hope you had a good weekend. So the philosophy sucks and the loopy swing doesn't work. We need a former MLB player that can see what's wrong with these guys and fix it. One guy that actually was being tossed around a little bit was Sheffield as a hitting coach. I'm not sure. It's a name that I never thought of, until last night when I saw it come out. What do you think on Sheffield? Is that a name? Is the idea of bringing a player back to be a coach? Sometimes I just don't know if that's automatically a formula to work.
I don't. Again, they got rid of Girardi and Pena and all these guys for being too harsh on the players. What do you think Gary Sheffield's going to do to these people? Like, is Gary Sheffield going to come over with like donuts and cookies and be like, "Hey guys, don't worry, we're going to fix this"? No, it's Gary Sheffield. He's not going to come over here and be this super nice. He's going to be a nice guy. Obviously, he's going to get along with his players, but he's going to get on you when he has to. If the manager's not doing that and the bench coach is not doing that, I don't think the hitting coach is going to all of a sudden be the good cop, bad cop routine. I don't think that's going to be the case. So people can throw out all these names that they want. Paul O'Neill, Gary Sheffield. I've seen A-Rod be considered. I've seen Jeter. I've seen Giambi, all these different names of former Yankees and former good baseball players. It's not going to be one of those guys. It's not. It's going to be an analytical guy from another organization or from like a college team or something like that. That might get the job. I don't think it's going to be one of those guys because, again, they let go of guys who had that fire in them that tried to get the best out of their players. If you let Tony Pena go, who was notorious for that stuff, but he got the best out of his players, what makes you think Sheffield's going to be any different than that? They're not going to want that, or else they would have never gotten rid of Tony Pena or Girardi.
Well, I'm not a big fan of bringing former players, especially even more so popular former players, back as coaches, because we all know the saying, coaches are hired to be fired. Which is why, as much as I always said I would enjoy watching like a David Cohn or an Andy Pettitte as a pitching coach. Those guys, that's not a lifetime deal. So when those guys, when things go awry and things go off the rails, you don't want it to be a situation, well, it's Paul O'Neill, he gets a pass. You have to be able to hold the players, the coaches, the manager, the GM. Everybody has to be held to an equal account. I don't think that the Yankees would really – I would worry that the Yankees wouldn't do that with a guy with a stature or a status like a Paul O'Neill or Giambi or even an A-Rod, who I wouldn't even let near this team. It's – that's something that I'm not a big fan of, which is why when Mattingly had when he was on the market, I was not, and Mattingly was my first baseball fan that I was a big fan of, a player that I loved. He's what made me a baseball fan. I wouldn't want him as a manager or any coach. I want his legacy to be on the field, not in the dugout waiting to be fired because something went wrong.
Yeah, and that goes to every former Yankee that people have suggested. Look, it's great to think about what could be, but again, are any of these guys going to want to answer to Brian Cashman and Eli Fishman and all these guys? What's his name? Mike Fishman. I'm sorry, not Eli.
Yeah.
It's Mike Fishman, right? Fishman, whatever, the fish guy.
Yeah.
Does
his last name because
there's an Eli something on. I think there's an Eli Fishman on Twitter that he covers the minor league team. So I apologize to Eli. he's not the guy that's running the analytical department. But anyway, none of these guys are going to want to answer to Brian Cashman. It's simple as that. You think Derek Jeter is going to come in here, 3,000 plus hits, 5 World Series championships, constantly hitting over 300, doing things the right way. One of the great, unanimous he should have been unanimous. In my opinion, he was. Hall of Famer. He's going to come in here and say uppercut swings for everybody. No, it's not going to happen. O'Neal's not going to do it. None of these former players are going to want to hear it. Donald has mentioned it countless times. When we had Ron Blomberg on, he was asked, do you want – he was going to be considered for the job, and he said, you wouldn't want me.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? And Ron Blomberg, he's not on the level of an offensive player that some of these other guys are. So if he's saying you're not going to want me, what do you think O'Neal's going to do? What do you think Sheffield and Jeter? I'm sorry. I love seeing all these former names come back up and make me think about what they did as a player, but seeing them as a hitting coach and having to basically be the yes man to Cashman and Boone, it's never going to happen.
Yeah,
it's never going to happen.
Sell their souls to the devil just for a job.
Exactly. Jeter's fine on Fox right now. He's living the life. He's wearing aprons in Seattle with A-Rod and all the guys. Sheffield's, I don't know what he's up to, but Sheffield seems to be having a good time with his family. Paul O'Neal's loving his job in the booth. I don't think any of these guys want to leave that to join this. And if this team goes into the second half and struggles, they're going to be like, well, Paul O'Neal can't fix it either. And then he's going to be vilified the same way Lawson was, the same way Marcus Timms was, and Kevin Long and everybody before him. It's a philosophy that starts with the front office that isn't getting changed. So what makes you think that any of these guys are going to come in here and just all of a sudden do something different, unless Cashman's had a change of heart? That's the only thing that would give me some sort of positive vibes, is that he's like, we have to do something differently here or else we're going to lose the season, because you've already lost a playoff spot at this point. It's a game away, but you got to do something fast. So unless this All-Star break is where his change of heart finally takes place, none of this stuff that people are suggesting are going to happen. It's going to be some name that we probably don't even know.
Oh, it's definitely going to be an unknown. Like, Matt Blake wasn't on the radar, when they brought him in for the pitching job. And look what he's done. I think the tandem with him and Harkey they're a dream team, for the pitching staff. Because as much as Matt Blake gets most of the credit because he's in the dugout, Harkey in the bullpen back there, he's doing a phenomenal job with these relievers. I think they communicate well. I have no issues with the pitching, and I've said that. Even after this weekend's games, I don't hold the pitching accountable at all. Not that I don't hold them accountable yet. I don't put the blame on them. You can't expect. It was nice to see that the Yankees put some hits together, but there's been a lot asked of this pitching staff, and they've delivered. I think this was the first time that they collectively just had a bad series. It's gonna, that's gonna happen. If the bats didn't suck so bad for so long, and we were winning more games than we were losing, you would just be like, all right, we had a tough 3 games, and you move forward. But I think the hitting, that's where it all comes down to. The hitting, the players, the staff, the GM, because he's the one that keeps bringing in these stupid players. Or bringing in these dinosaurs that just can't do the job anymore. Mainly Donaldson. I just don't understand why they wouldn't want to just shake it up. Don't look inside the organization. I think that's the first right move, the first smart move. And what's going on, Jason? And he said they've done 2 captains, both from outside the organization. Good. I don't want You don't want to bring in somebody that's been already subjected to this philosophy. I think that's a problem. I think that would become a problem.
Yeah, and even this series, I can't blame the offense for losing that game yesterday, because Gleyber Torres makes a double play. The Yankees probably win that game.
Yeah.
And that's another issue with this team, is Gleyber Torres literally just cost you a game, because if he makes that play, Canely gets to pitch the 8th, the clean inning, and then you have Holmes in the 9th probably, and you probably, I don't know, maybe something goes wrong, but you more than likely win that game and you win the series. The offense wasn't great, but Hendricks is having a better year. You were able to put up 10 hits against him. You got a couple of home runs from Higgy and Volpe. You're feeling pretty good. You're going into the break. You won a series. You holding on to a playoff spot. Tampa's starting to scuffle. You're not that far out of the division, and you're going to get Nestor back in the first week of August. There's the trade deadline coming up. Maybe you add a bat there. Things could have been looking positive. Instead, that happens. He doesn't get taken out of the game for it. There's no accountability on this team, and then they fire the hitting coach, and you're like, well, maybe there's some accountability, but there isn't, because he's part of the issue, but he's not the issue, because, again, they did the same thing to Marcus Timms, and he was here for 3 years, I think, right? Oh, yeah, for 3 seasons, and they blamed him. But every year, it doesn't matter who's the hitting coach, we get to some point in the season, whether it be in the playoffs or first half or some point in the second half, where they just don't hit. How is that a hitting coach's problem if it happens every single year over multiple hitting coaches? Now, I don't want to defend Lawson here because he needed to go. Clearly, they need to make something happen, but we know who the main culprit is, and it's the GM, and he got rewarded for his bad job for 4 more years. He's going to be like, do it again for 4 more years. So I repeat myself. Unless he's had a change of heart, I have no confidence that this guy's going to come in and just fix this team, because it's still constructed very poorly. Dylan Lawson didn't have a left fielder. He had no outfield for a while, minus Aaron Judge. He's got 37-year-old Josh Donaldson to rely on. He's got DJ LeMahieu coming off of an injured toe to try to be a catalyst. There's so many question marks on this team. No catchers that are known for being offensive guys. Yeah, anyone would struggle with this kind of lineup. You're relying on Billy McKinney's and Jake Bowers and Willie Calhoun's, Franchi Cordero to carry you for a large portion of the season. I'm surprised we're not under 500.
We should be, especially since we lost Judge. But the only reason that we're not under 500 is because of the pitching staff. And that's a fact. It's not the offense that's been carrying us, it's the pitching, which is why I haven't really given any airtime yet really to the pitchers, except for a couple statements with Matt Blake and Harkey with the with the coaching because of the firing. But it's really it comes down to the fact that these players, it's almost like they're playing these games like they don't care anymore. They're just it's almost like they're playing like they're just trying to get through the season. It's like, they've hit so many road bumps and speed bumps, or however you want to analyze it, with all the injuries, that it's just a chronic problem year after year. The uncertainty of what, the status with Judge, prospects that are performing that are not being brought up because you have veterans that are not producing with big contracts clogging up holes, spots. It's just gonna, I don't think I'm starting to get the impression that they just want to get the season over with. They just don't. They're done. I think that and when you mentally check out, there's no turning around for that. There's nothing that's going to be like, all right, you know what, I care again. And that the only time that'll happen at the moment, Judge is back in the lineup. But by then it might be too late.
It might be. Again, even if they come out, new hitting coach, and they go to Colorado and they tear the cover off the ball, I'm still not going to be like everything's fixed, because Colorado's a hitter's park and Colorado's a bad team. Look what we did at 2 games against Oakland, right? We're like, oh, the offense is back, right? And then they went to St. Louis and crapped an egg. Yeah. So even against Baltimore, we had 2 good games against them offensively. Good games. We won. Then they did nothing. So it's just they're so up and down. Like, you see the signs they can be a productive offense minus Aaron Judge, and then they go and do what they did in the final 2 games against Baltimore and the first game against the Cubs. I don't even want to put it on the offense yesterday, because 4 runs and Domingo Germán pitching a gem gets taken out after 74 pitches. That's another problem with this team. They script games. It was clear. It was clear they were going to use that bullpen, because the bullpen hadn't been used the day before. Cole went, 6 and 7 innings, whatever it was. They barely had to use the bullpen. Yesterday, they had it scripted. They took Germán out after 1 walk and 74 pitches. 74. And then they went to Hamilton. To his defense, he should have been out of the inning. Glaber needs to make that play. But it was clear they were going to go. Once Herman had his first sign of trouble, he was out. And that was the walk. He gave up the walk, you're done. Hamilton got no favors, but then Caneley's got to come in and try to get out of an impossible situation. He didn't. Game's tied. It remains tied, but you can't score a go-ahead run. You waste a leadoff walk from Stanton in one inning. And the bullpen just wasn't good yesterday.
No.
It happens, but it shouldn't have been that way. Why was Herman not able to at least try to get out of that jam in the seventh? He was at 74 pitches, and you have the All-Star break coming up. This bullpen has been overused as it is. Give them an extended time period off as much as you can. Let them enjoy the break. They have earned it. Instead, Aaron Boone's like, well, they didn't pitch yesterday, and now he's just going to overwork them, and look what happens. It's just it's such poor roster construction. It's poor management. It's poor analytics. They script games, and you can't do that in baseball because so much happens over the course of a 162-game season, as the Yankees have been seeing this year, that you can't script a game and expect everything to go perfectly right and follow the script. You can't do that. And the Yankees still try to do something that doesn't work, and that was my biggest issue is before the season they said, we're not changing what we do in the regular season. So you knew that it was going to be the same crap. And here we are, minus our best player, an offense that can't hit, a manager that can't manage, and a GM that doesn't see the issues that he is causing. And the fact that we're still in the playoff hunt is mind-blowing to me.
Well, also, let's not ignore Hal's comments that he doesn't understand why we're so pissed off. So it's going from the owner all the way, it's trickling all the way down. When we said, confidence starts from the top. That's where it rolls downhill. It's not, that saying, that shit rolls downhill. So does positivity. So, and it's, although that in the press conferences, they'll spew out the lip service of, we have full confidence in our guy, but they're not following through with their statements. It's just very lackluster, and it's just lip service, and the players can feel that. When you're, if you're getting a good job from your boss, you can tell when it's just, all right, they're saying it because they want you to come in tomorrow, or if they really feel like they really want to make sure that they know that or that that they're recognizing what you're doing. Cashman's he's in that top that first category. He's just telling you did a good job, so you come back. It's not that he values you at all. And the same goes for Hal. And I want to get back to this chat here. FJ, how's everything going? I've been seeing you in the comments. The offense works only when they hit home runs. Sadly, but that's true. And they're all trying to hit home runs, but they're not all home run hitters. Torres is not a home run hitter. It goes to Jason's comment here. He still wants to trade Torres to fortify the pitching, which is more reliable. I think Peraza can incredibly replace his offense and make the infield defense much stronger. I actually think that's a very, very good comment. And I agree with you completely. Rob, what do you think?
I said the other day that I probably wouldn't trade Gleyber Torres, and I don't think his value's up right now anyway. So Peraza should be playing third, and you can just DH Torres and put LeMahieu at second, for being honest. You can do that. If you really want Torres out of the infield, I don't know if you can replace his bat, though. Because if you take Torres out, you put Peraza, you got to hope Peraza is hitting well, because he wasn't earlier this year, as much as I want to see him, and he should be here. You got to hope that he gets it going like immediately.
Yep. Because
Torres, to his defense, while his season hasn't been excellent, he's been probably our best hitter, not named Aaron Judge. He's either second or third on that list at this point in the season. Either be him or Bader, take your pick. But it's hard to replace that kind of bat. But you can easily replace his glove and just DH him. And they've had Stanton playing the outfield, which is fine. You can get Florial up here, and your outfield's a lot better. You have Bader, Florial, and Stanton. You can have Peraza, DJ, or you can put DJ at third, Peraza at second. If you want, DH Torres, and he can keep his bat. But unless a team comes calling and says, hey, we can use him, and that clears the path for Peraza, then I definitely take a look at that too. But Torres, he has these gaffes so much where it's either base running or it's defense or whatever it may be, and you're just like, if he could just put it all together, he'd be an incredible player. He's a good player, but these mental mistakes and these issues that he has on the field, it makes you kind of just scratch your head like, dude, you're like 25 and you have a chance to be one of the best players on this team and one of the better players in the AL at least. It's just got to put it together. I love his bat. I wish it can be a little bit better, but I like his bat, and his defense was great last year, but this year he's taking a step back. So I don't know. If that clears the path for Peraza, then so be it.
I think that's what it is. It would have to be, to move him, the only way to satisfy the fans that are a fan of his that the move is worth it, it has to be Peraza. They bring up anybody else or they trade for somebody else to play the infield, I think that would be a complete mistake. It has to be to inject the youth from the minor leagues. That's the only way I would move Torres. The other issue is, although he's had 7 errors so far this season, I think with Torres, he gets so in his head. He gets so in his own head, and I think that's what's been his biggest problem, is he's an overthinker. It's not that he's lazy. I think he overthinks everything instead of just clearing his head and just playing the game. I think they have, and I'm going to blame this also. It all goes back also to the analytics. They throw so many numbers at these players that they don't even know which way is what anymore. That's why we have, I know we have a very sizable analytics team, but it's 9 errors. Jesus Christ. So, I thought it was 7. Most by second baseman in MLB. Yeah, thanks, Medina. I knew it was the most in MLB, but I thought it was 7, not 9. That's even worse now. But I think the analytics needs to back off. I think that'd be the first big, backstage change I would make. Aside from the coaching staff, scale back the numbers. This is not a game designed to be played by a book. That every other team, they use the analytics as a tool. They don't use it as the sole focus. The Yankees, that's why they just keep getting stuck in these bad habits. Cut the analytical team. You don't need 30, 40, 50, how many guys they got punching all these numbers. It's just ruining the game. It's ruining this team, and it's really pissing all those fans off.
I will never blame analytics for a baseball team struggling. I blame the way a team uses analytics, and that's how. And that's I know. Yeah, I'm saying a lot of people are going to say it's all the analytics' fault. Just go back to the old school way. It's not that type of game anymore. Baseball is different now. Everybody uses it. Everybody. And what was one of the main things about analytics in its early stages was just get on base. And that's what the Yankees did so well. That's what they're not doing this year. Whether it be batting average or on base, but on base percentage was always like the main thing.
Yeah.
You really couldn't care less if a player was hitting 230, but like every 10 at bats, if he had 2 hits, but he had like two or 3 walks in between and 10 plate appearances, whatever, the batting average is going to look low, but the on base is going to look good. So it's like, okay, does it matter if he's drawing a walk or hitting a single at that point? No, doesn't matter. The whole point is just to get on base, and you have a better chance of scoring runs. Very simplified stuff. Now, and there's a lot of tools like weighted runs created plus and weighted on base average. These numbers help you. But the Yankees look at like a player like Josh Donaldson, despite the fact that he's either hitting a home run or doing nothing else. He's hitting like a home run every 10 at-bats and doing nothing else. And they're saying, but he's hitting the ball hard. That's where it goes wrong.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you can say his average exit velocity is pretty good, but when you're 1 for 10 and just hitting a home run, it's clear that you can't fix that because it's been the case since he's come back, and it was the case last year where he hit the ball kind of hard, but the production, he wasn't getting the results. It doesn't matter at that point. So they use analytics. They use baseball savant basically. They look at that and go, see the average exit velocity is up, and but he's expected to hit this number. He's not though. He's not. They won't use that for other players. So sometimes you got to look at those other numbers. And Josh Donaldson's weighted runs created plus is 70 or something like that, 80. It's not good. So there's an analytic stat for you. He's not a good player. Let him go. And he's still here. So analytics are a part of the game now, whether people like it or not, but you have to be able to use them correctly. Stop relying on 37-year-old washed-up players and guys that are journeymen going into their 30s or right around their 30s. Just give it. All we're asking is just to give a shot to some of these younger players and see if it works. And then maybe you win a few games, you survive this, whatever this is without Aaron Judge. But again, if a lot of people want to blame analytics, but if it wasn't the Cashman yes man that was running the show, the Rays use it, it works. The Dodgers use it, it works. The Astros use it, and it works. Like all these teams, they use analytics and they use it well. So clearly, there's a place for it in the sport. The Yankees just haven't figured it out. After all these years of trying to be like every other team, they can't figure out the way to use analytics, despite having the deepest pockets in the entire sport outside of the New York Mets.
Yep, it's the numbers have been there since the game's inception. That's why you see, they would keep a track of, singles, doubles, triples, home runs, batting average, all that's been on the record books since the game, since I created the game, right? And now it's so advanced, which is fine. I was one of those old dudes that was just pounding his chest going, no computers. It's a human game. Just let the game, do its own thing. And then you'll see some of these, war and this and that, some of the numbers. It's to figure out how they calculate half of the stuff. It can be very confusing, But when you put the time into trying to figure it out, go, all right. This stat benefits this style of player. If we have this number in a utility guy or a gap hitter, that's the type of player we want. That number doesn't automatically translate to a guy that is a power hitter. That's the other part of the problem. They think every number fits to every player or every style of player. I think that's where things got so off track.
Yeah, they also look at launch angle and it's like, well, if you swing up,
stupidest and exit velo, who gives a shit?
Well, exit velo can definitely be used as a good, because look at Giancarlo Stanton. Like his exit velocity is the best in baseball when he's hitting the ball. Like no one hits it harder than him, and that's why a lot of these hits that look like line drives go over the wall. Exit velocity matters. And sometimes it goes into BABIP and all that stuff. Like, oh, you got unlucky. You hit the ball on the screws 110 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour off the bat, and the defender just made a great play. Exit velocity matters, but the Yankees look at launch angle and be like, well, if you're swinging uppercut, guess what? The ball's going to go up. And because we have a hitter's ballpark, that's going to work. Not everybody's an uppercut kind of player, and they try to turn too many players into these power bats, like Gleyber Torres. He had a big home run season in a juiced ball year, and they said, that's you. Not everybody needs to be Aaron Judge. The Yankees had the formula in 2017. They hit the cover off the ball, but they had Judge, who was getting for power. They had Starlin Castro, who was getting on base. They had Didi, who can do both. They had a good team. Gary Sanchez was at his best that year. And then they had guys coming up. Clint Frazier should have been a star on this team, or at the very least, a good average Major League Baseball player. They screwed him up. We talked about this already. They screwed so many players up.
Andujar was a great contact hitter.
He was just a pure hitter. He didn't draw walks, but it didn't matter because he was hitting 285, 287, doubles machine, and he was hitting all sides of the field.
Doubles in a season that year.
Yeah, he didn't matter. You had him and you had Torres, and when Gio took the spot at third, he was an all fields kind of hitter, high average, got the job done. You got DJ in there, and they had a formula that worked, but then it didn't. You know, they tried to, and Damian said, they tried to fix something that wasn't broken.
Yep. And
that's the issue with the New York Yankees.
Yeah, it's so sad and it's so true at the same time. You know, I think Eli makes a good point too, and it goes in line of everything that we've agreed with. You know, the Astros, Braves, Rays, Dodgers do that. Yankees, don't. And that's mixed analytics and old school mindset. Right? And I think for once, I have no argument to that. And we always love to look for something to argue with. But no, it really it's got to blend well. The Yankees have gotten so far away from the old school, trying to be, the forefront of this new baseball, that they've completely lost their way. And that's why the philosophy that we've been saying since this channel's inception, the philosophy is so broken that as long as Cashman is at the helm, there's going to be no significant changes. Yeah.
No, you're right. And we've been saying this for 4 years and 4 years now, and he got a 4-year extension. So that's why I don't, as much as we can talk about it and talk about it, nothing's going to change though. Like, I don't see a change happening unless that change of heart has happened, and unless Hal Steinbrenner stepped in. Because I think that may be a case here, because we know Cashman in 25 years has never fired a coach in season. Even when George was running the show, Cashman never did it. So everyone's saying George would have had these guys fired by now. No, because it never happened before. So the fact that this is the first time it's happened in his entire tenure as GM, and that goes pretty much my entire life, and a lot of people that are in the chat can say the same thing. They've only known one GM of the New York Yankees. That tells me that I think Hal Steinbrenner might have stepped in and said, look, we got to do something. We have to do something. So I'm hoping that's the case. I really am, because we've all asked for Hal to take a bigger role. He doesn't have to channel his father at all, but he has to take more of a role and be like, this ship is starting to fall apart. It's starting to sink a little bit. And the only person that can really fix it, because the guy I put in charge isn't doing it, now he's got to step in. So hopefully, I'm hoping that's the case, because I don't trust Brian Cashman to fix this. I don't trust him to hire the right guy to fix this.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be. I don't foresee another significant change. It's sad, but I really don't. It's missing the playoffs. Yeah, but that's not going to do anything in season, Jonathan. So, and I agree with you also completely right here. Right, the exit field doesn't do anything to help contact hitting. Exactly. That's why I don't. That's why I said what I said. I don't think every statistic works to every player. It has to be broken down, which is ironic, because it's going to take even more analytics to figure out what type of player benefits from what type of stat. But in the long run, it might be beneficial if you just say, all right, you're a contact hitter. These are the numbers that we need you to look at. You're a power hitter. These are the numbers I need you to look at. If you're good on the if you're a good base runner or base stealer, these are the numbers that we need you to look. It all has to go. I think it needs to be even more compartmentalized. Jason, really, I appreciate you guys hanging out so long. But crazy thing was George ran the show, but also let Cashman make the additions needed, where it doesn't seem like Hal is willing to do the same. And he also thinks Hal is the bigger issue. It's hard to say what George would do, because we don't know what kind of owner. Well, we know what kind of owner George was, right? And he's had his flaws, but he's also given us a lot to look back on and appreciate what he did. How would he manage? How would he manage the staff with the way that analytics came in? Because he wasn't around much for these advanced analytics. So who knows? I don't know what his approach would have been. If he would have, been stubborn and says we're not making the adjustments. I don't care about an analytical team, or we don't know how George would have used those tools.
Yeah, I don't think Hal's the issue. I agree with Li here. I don't know what he's talking about with being handcuffed by Hal. I don't think I said that. I don't know if anyone in the chat said it. I don't think Hal's holding Cashman back by any means. I think Cashman's holding him back. I think Cashman clearly runs the show, but I think Hal needs to step in now. And because we saw in the offseason, Hal had to step in to get Judge back. Cashman was going to let him walk. He was going to let him walk. Hal had to step in. I think a lot of people will tell you Rodon was a Hal signing, but then they blame Cashman when he got hurt. But I want to think that Hal is looking at this situation right now and saying, the guy I put in charge, the guy I just gave a 4-year extension to, he's put this team together. He's put this staff together. It's not going well. Maybe now he's stepping in and saying, we got to do something, because again, 25 years of never firing a coach in season just changed yesterday. That's never happened. That's a pretty big thing. As little of a move as I think it is, it's a pretty big thing that they actually fired a coach in season. So maybe Hal is starting to kind of get in Cashman's ear and be like, fix this, get this fixed right now. Because as much as Hal might be like, well, he likes the ticket sales and he thinks he's all about money, when you don't play well, you're going to lose money. It's a pretty standard thing. It's Hal's a businessman too. He understands that. If the team starts to lose, people are still going to go to the games, but they're going to lose money because they're not going to buy. Not as many people are going to go. Not as many people are going to watch on TV because they know this team stinks. It's like it's a small step, like I said at the beginning of the show, small step. But I think Hal has to step in now and be like, something's got to get done here.
Yeah, it's bad enough that you got to play. You're spinning a wheel to figure out what network it's on. Who's going to go through all that trouble to watch a shitty team? If I'm at that point, I don't have all the apps and all. I don't even have cable, so but I paid for the Yes app. I'm like, I don't even feel like I'm getting my money's worth. How sad is that? And the other, but at the same time, I'm not going to stop watching just because my team's having a rough period, right? I remained a fan as a kid through the 80s, with that drought. Well, where my first bit of fandom, I could have easily been a Mets fan after the 86 season, but I I just continued to always root for the Yankees. I was just drawn to it. There was that aura about them. I'm not going to stop now, not after all the years I've put in, and nobody should. But what everybody should do is join us Wednesday as we segue into that, because Wednesday, to celebrate All-Star Week, we are celebrating our All-Stars, and we will be the beginning of the show. We're going to put the link to the chat, to the show in the chat, and we are going to borrow a page out of Hector and TC's book, and we're going to do an open panel and just invite people to come in, give their opinions. We're going to try to get everybody in. We're going to try to give everybody a fair take, but you all know the YouTube rules and regulations and guidelines on as far as just also be respectful to everybody, as you guys all know from Hector and TC. But Wednesday, we want to celebrate you guys that have really supported us. So we want to do something special for you guys. So we're going to do an open panel on Wednesday. for the All-Star break. So just remember, hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. As you all know, it's 10 a.m. on Wednesday, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. But remember, hit the subscribe button, like this video, share this video out. Appreciate everybody that was in the chat. Jigga, Jason, Eli, Jonathan, Sunil, Medina. We had John Doe in there earlier on. Everybody, if I missed your name, I apologize. But as always, wear your pinstripes of pride.
I do want to thank Jason though for clarifying that thing because I did not see that report from Brian Hope.
Oh,
I saw his first few tweets, but I must have just blanked out on Twitter after that. So I apologize. I was wrong. He fixed that up for me. So I appreciate you, Jason, for giving me that. I just looked at his Twitter now and I saw the tweet where he went to he went to Hal and asked for his blessing. So I'm glad that I'm actually relieved that Cashman's the one that said something's got to get done here.
Yeah,
I'm relieved. So thank you, Jason.
That does make us feel a little bit more at ease. But and also Damian and Anthony Garcia, what's going on? Yes, open panel. So look forward to it. So as always, like I was saying, wear those pinstripes of pride and play hard.